Yo, what's going on guys, it's Res. In this video I want to talk about Reservoir Burst returning to the game. As you saw in the title, it simply says, is this perk good anymore? And I honestly have some mixed opinions on it. Now before we jump in, I just want to say really quick, I am on the road to 10,000 subs, so if you enjoy, consider subscribing, and I would love to have you on this journey. I truly appreciate it. So Reservoir Burst was a perk back on the Loaded Question, which was a ritual weapon, kind of like Null Composure right here, but it was specifically only on that. And I'll get into what I mean by that later. But Reservoir Burst simply says, when the battery is full, your next burst deals additional damage and causes enemies to explode on death. So this is actually a really good perk. You can compare it to something like Chain Reaction. It was actually the OG Chain Reaction, and it only came on fusion rifles. You can even do tricks with this thing where you can hit multiple enemies at once. If you kill multiple enemies with the one burst, they're all going to explode. Then obviously all the enemies around them are going to explode and die. It's very, very good for ad clearing, and it's one of the best PvE perks on fusion rifles, and heck, it's even pretty good in PvP with the damage boost if you can get the max ammo for it. But I actually want to talk about it, pair it with something like Salvage Salvo. Salvage Salvo has Chain Reaction on it, which if you don't know, like I was saying, is just Reservoir Burst, but for heavy weapons and, you know, like special grenade launchers. This, again, does the exact same thing. Each final blow with this weapon creates an elemental damage explosion. The difference between this and Reservoir Burst is it is very, very easy to do it with Salvage Salvo compared to Reservoir Burst. Now you might be saying, well, Res, it's super easy to just get a kill Reservoir Burst, and it is, but the problem is the uptime you have. As you see in a fusion rifle like this, it has 8 in the magazine. That is a lot for this. Since it has 8 in the magazine, that means you're very limited to the amount of Reservoir Burst shots that you actually have, because you're always going to be reloading this to get max ammo. And the thing with the Loaded Question it had auto loading holster, which worked out really well because you could just shoot one shot, stow it away, and let it reload. But this one has Speed and Frenzy on Null Composure, which isn't bad actually, because every time you kill enemies with Reservoir Burst, you're all going to get these Speed and Frenzy procs, and you can reload the thing insanely fast to keep getting that Reservoir Burst shot back in. Now the problem is though, is that you have to keep reloading it every single time you shoot it. Once this perk goes away, you're just shooting a normal fusion rifle with one perk, and it's not that good honestly. But if you can get the chains going and keep it up, it's very, very good. But the problem is with something like Null Composure is the fact that it has such a high magazine at 8, and you're not going to get a lot of shots. You can have around 20 plus max ammo if you have double reserves on this thing, so you're gonna get a decent amount of shots. But if you compare it to something like Salvage Salvo, where you can just have a load of ammo, and literally every single time you kill an enemy with the grenade launcher, it causes the explosion. And not only that, the Chain Reaction also causes other explosions, and it's explosion for days, and the grenade launcher already does a lot of damage, and half the time you're going to be running Anarchy anyway, so you're going to have grenade launcher reserves on, so you're going to be getting additional benefits, because obviously all your grenade launcher perks are going to be based around Salvage Salvo. And if we actually take a look at the seasonal artifact right here, Season of the Explosions, you know, everything is based around grenade launchers, rocket launchers. You're going to have a ton of explosion damage, and you're going to be running grenade launchers in the first place. So in my opinion, I honestly think Chain Reaction might be a better perk than Reservoir Burst right now, especially on something like Salvage Salvo. The only thing is, on Null Composure, it is easier to use than Salvage Salvo, because obviously you can't shoot a grenade launcher at close range because you'll die. But the fusion rifle, you can. You shoot it at any range, obviously not super long range, not this one at least, because it's not going to hit an enemy. But you can use this very, very easy. It's very, very, you know, more ease of use than the Salvage Salvo. But I honestly think you're going to get more at the Salvage Salvo and Chain Reaction than Reservoir Burst with Null Composure. I'm not saying it's bad, and this is coming from somebody that loved Loaded Question in the original Destiny 2 when it first came out. Like, I used that thing like crazy, and honestly, I just don't feel like it stands up to what the Loaded Question was. And even if Loaded Question was in the game at this point, I don't even think that would stand up to what Salvage Salvo is. Getting back to the mods right here, we do have Energy Accelerant right here, where your Dragonfly Chain Reaction and Firefly Explosions do more damage. This is just going to furthermore increase the opinion of this video, because it does not say Reservoir Burst. That's not getting increased damage, but Chain Reaction is going to be getting increased damage. So Chain Reaction will be even better now. And on top of that, with the Reservoir Burst on a Void weapon, it sometimes seems to just not activate. I'm not sure why, but it seems, you know, just randomly sometimes not even blow the enemy up, so it's kind of inconsistent. But it is still a very good perk, and honestly, it's still the best perk if for a PvE specific role. It's still going to be the best perk you can get on a weapon. Now, I'm saying all this because even though the Null Composure isn't like standing up to like be like the Loaded Question, there is another gun if you guys don't know, that I will show you really quick. And that gun is the plug one. Now I had the adept version pulled up because obviously the adept version is probably going to be the one most people go for. But even the normal one will work fine. You just won't be able to have an adept mod. But if you actually take a look at this, this is a fusion rifle that has more impact than the Null Composure. And the problem with the Null Composure is the fact that it's such low impact that additional damage is not getting that much of a benefit, and you're not going to be one-shot at mages. If you have a high impact fusion rifle with that Reservoir Burst damage perk, you're going to be one-shot at mages like crazy, especially if you have the adept one with adept big one spec'd on. If we're going to throw that on real quick, you're going to be one-shot at mages for them to blow up, which is going to completely change how the gun works. And if you go on and take a look over here at the perks, as you see on the plug one, you can get Reservoir Burst and Feed and Frenzy, the exact perks on the Null Composure, but it's on a better version in my opinion. It has more impact, and we're still not even done here. You can still build it even more. But to note, this is also ARC, the same as Loaded Question, and Loaded Question never seemed to have those inconsistent issues like the Null Composure does. So this could also just be a more consistent version of Reservoir Burst as well, which is really, really nice. Now to make this even better, you can take things like liquid coils to further increase the impact again, to make sure you secure these kills to get that Reservoir Burst pot, so you can get the Feed and Frenzy to get that Reservoir Burst back up. And then obviously for barrels, going with range or stability is going to be probably your best option. So if you go something like full bore, you're going to have even more range to be able to snipe targets from further away to compete with things like salvage or salvo and chain reaction, which the Null Composure just cannot do right now. And then to take it even further, obviously if you get an absolute god roll, you can get a reload masterwork, which is going to pair really well with Feed and Frenzy, so you can reproc that Reservoir Burst constantly over and over again. You're going to be one-shotting people all the time with it because of adept big one spec, and you have more impact with your battery right here. Plus in general, it's just better impact, and you probably are going to be more consistent because it is ARC compared to something like the Null Composure, where it's not ARC and it just seems to not work sometimes. But that is the absolute god roll for the plug one. I honestly think the plug one is going to be a super meta weapon, especially if you can get those rolls. But it also has some very good PvP rolls as well. And if you would like to see me go more in depth like that with other weapons, and I can go even more in depth with the plug one, be sure to let me know in the comments and I can do that for you guys. But again, the Null Composure, it sounds like I'm hating on it. I'm not really hating on it. It just has some issues. It's still really good. It's going to be really good for casual play. I don't really think you're going to see it in high-end content. But for, like I was saying, casual play, this thing is going to slap. It's going to be really good. I would recommend getting it, but it's just not going to be as good as salvage or salvo. I guess the best way to describe it is salvage or salvo has a very high learning curve, but if you can learn it, it's going to be better. But the Null Composure is still very good, just not as good as this, but it has like no learning curve whatsoever. It's super easy to use, and you can still get very, very good benefits out of it. If you can get that adept plug one, it is 100% going to be better than the Null Composure, and I honestly think you'll start to see Reservoir Burst shine even more than it currently already is. But these are just my opinions. Be sure to let me know what you guys think in the comments, because I would love to know, are you enjoying Reservoir Burst in its state now? Are you excited to get a plug one? Do you think you're still just going to use salvage or salvo like I probably am, especially like I was saying, since with all the other mods we're going to have? But again, that's up for all of you to decide, and anything you use are going to be some crazy PvE loadouts in the game now. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.